Speed.
Slate.
Is it okay? Okay. One elephant, take one marker.
Nice. Action.
Hi. Well, thank you both for being here so much. I'm going to start by asking J. Marie, can you tell us a little bit about your dad and who he is?
Sure. My dad is this dude right here. He is... a lot of people think that we're really similar, I guess. So, when I think of him, or when people think of him, they usually think that he's like intimidating at first, because he's like a big person, and that he makes things really deep really quickly. He's not a big person, he's not big on small talk, and he's like really wise, and he if he makes a decision, he'll stick to it, and he really cares about his family. He cares about family, period. He cares about God and making sure that his life is in alignment with what he thinks God wants him to do, and just he likes to serve in this way where he is helping other people. He helping other people figure out where to go. He doesn't like to feel like he's actually doing little individual things for people, but he really feels like he cares about their larger kind of sense of well-being and purpose. And I think I don't think I know very many people like him, I guess, actually, if I think about it. So, yeah.
She's been listening.
So, Brian, can I have you share a little bit about J. Marie?
Yeah, I look at people in 8 dimensions. Physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially. There are 8 dimensions. Environmentally, occupationally, and intellectual. So I remember writing down and telling Jamie what I thought about her in that way. So I have to read it because I don't remember very well. Since things are written down easier to remember and grab, I think this was the day that I was talking about her. I think it's this one.
This one.
And can you also tell us about your notebooks?
Yes, I've been journaling since, I got married when I was 18. My wife was 17, I was 18. And I got married because in the black community, men leave, they quit. And I thought, is it possible that an African American family can stay together and then on the other side of 30 years or however many years that go by when the kids are grown, what happens then? Because my template is people leave, men leave, they quit. So I thought, well, what would happen if I raised my kids, they grew up, they contributed to society, they had their education, and they have great jobs? What would that look like? Ta-da! So I've been journaling, and as I look back, I go, oh my goodness, I did what I said. Thank you, God, we did it. Well, now what do? I didn't plan anything now. I've done what I said I would do. I don't know what to do now. So I guess that's why we're having this conversation. Where do we go from here? So anyway, in Jamie's self-image, who is she at the core? I told her this last May 25th, 2013. She already knows this. Her self-image, who is she? Spiritually, she's indifferent, but she believes and she has needs. Emotionally, all over the place. Centered on her own opinions. Runs her life much like me. Creates a lot of instability in relationships, but still shows up. Physically, takes exercise with a grain of salt. I know I need to do it, but not right now. I'll do it later. Intellectually, very bright, very intelligent, reflects her love of learning. Financially, not enough, need more. Having enough. No, so basically she has, each dimension in her life is developing. So that when I think about her, I think, wow, she's growing and developing right where she needs to be. The end.
Thank you. This is beautiful. So, J. Marie, I'm wondering if you can share a story or an appreciation that you have for your dad that's related to your personal experiences around gender or sexuality or body image.
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, I think there's kind of 2 sides of the ways that we've communicated over the years. I think because, so growing up, my mom and I, my mom is really down to talk and listen a lot like I am. At school, I would always have a lot to say about the facts of the day. I didn't come to him with those because he would not remember any of them. He's met people that are in this room, he doesn't really remember that. So, he kind of does. It takes a little while. So regardless, I was I had this strategy. I didn't have to think about it, but I had my mom just talk about details, and then when something really deep was happening, or when he had an insight, then we would talk about it for really long. We kind of have epic conversation practice. That's kind of what we do. So basically, on the one hand, there are ways that we are really similar. Literally, for the last, I think 10 years, maybe longer, something will happen in my day and it will have happened in his day really similarly. So like there is a way that we experience things similarly, like really weird things, good things, bad things, like aligned. He's asked about twins before, if that's possible, but he's like my dad, so it's not clearly not that, but we're connected. But then there's also this way of, you know, we don't agree on things, and so like sometimes there are those epic conversations about things where we're like kind of struggling, right, to like make something where we both agree or make something where we can come together, because at the end of the day, you know, and at the beginning of the day when we wake up and we go to sleep, like what's there is the love and what's there is a commitment to understanding each other. And so in between there might be some battles about different things. So, but you know, on the one hand, like there's this example of when I was in college and I like was trying to figure out how to enjoy college, and I just was not having fun, and I was like doing all the things that I thought I'd created for myself, like friends and all that stuff, but I was like not having fun. And meanwhile, like all I could think about was the fact that my dad, like when I grew up, basically like in middle school to high school, he was dealing with bipolar disorder and depression, and so I kind of understood that stuff, but it wasn't like I didn't feel like I had a lot of knowledge, but then I kind of noticed what was happening was similar to that. So when I figured things out, I knew that I was able to talk to him about it. And so in 2008, when I was like in college and I was like, nothing's kind of going the way I wanted to go, and it seems like I might be depressed, I kind of went the route that I'd seen him go. And then when I shared it with him, he was just able to identify and be there for me, right? And ever since that, you know, we've been able to talk and process, and it kind of aligns with if something happens in one day, it happens in the other day, you know, like the way we look at the world sometimes. So I appreciate that that's there, and even if it wasn't something that we experience the same, like he's always there to like make something deep and take care of me from the perspective of like what's the bigger picture. Because at the same time, there's also the times when we are, like I said, battling. So like when I came out and that wasn't what he was looking forward to, we still, over multiple epic conversations, like hour longs, crying, him crying, me crying, a lot of things happened, but like because we were committed to getting to like a place where we can love each other both like 100%, and that being like the point, that was what guided us to the conversation. So it's taken, you know, several years to get to those points, but
8.
I think he knows the number. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to like make sense of what my relationship with him growing up, and like how to, you know, like any other young adult, you know, create a relationship with their parents and their family. And also, my siblings are 10 years older than me. I have siblings that are 30, whatever, 34, 30, 35, and so I didn't think I was really able to like mirror their relationship, so I kind of had to figure out my own, and so I saw how they related, but not really. So I think even though I had an example, I still had to kind of recreate, and I feel like because we've been working at it together mutually, it's worked out. It's not like I was working and he wasn't. So I feel like, you know, there's this balance of like how we care about each other and how we take care of each other in actions and in like, you know, speech and verbal communication, but also just in like what we care about in the world, because we are similar. It's kind of all works itself out, I guess.
You said that very well.
Thanks, Dad.
You did it. I think like we don't often get to hear like personal experiences around like coming out and how both kind of caregivers and young people work together to work it out. Can you talk a little bit about that process and like what that was like?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, particularly I think for our experience, like I grew up going to a non-denominational church that my dad still goes to and came from to come here today, right? So from negative age, like my mom was pregnant, had, you know, been going to the church before I even came around. So I grew up in church, and, you know, being gay wasn't really something we ever talked about at all. It just wasn't an option. It was in the same list of things that are like really bad, that you don't talk about. Just like kind of in those list of sins in some of those scriptures, you just kind of read it like everything else, as if it's the same. So when I went to college and was kind of figuring stuff out and was trying to decide like for myself, for the church stuff, like regardless of being gay or any of that stuff, I was just like, do I care about this? Is this my standard? Is this what I want to do? And I gave myself the openness to do that, and along with that came questions of sexuality, I think, which would have happened anyway. And I'm still growing into whatever it looks like, but, you know, I had to figure out for myself what I care about and figure out, like, do I think I'm this really horrible person, or do I believe what I've heard about things? And, you know, I don't think that my church that I grew up in was one of the, like, worst kind of things where they were like, you're not like an abomination, you're not going to die right now. Like, it wasn't super extreme, I think. Yeah, it was kind of just like, kind of didn't really talk about it because it didn't really matter. It wasn't important. It just weren't going to do it. So once I finally kind of figured out that, yes, I kind of care about church in some way that I'm figuring out, but also I don't believe that this is what's going to happen. I looked a lot of things up about, like, how do I reconcile that stuff. And so I would, like, share things that I found about scriptures and, like, how they could be read in other ways and, like, how just because I think I am super intellectual sometimes, like I really get like logical when I talk about how, well, this doesn't even make sense because he wasn't around, or just different standards for different time periods and how history can be written in any kind of way. And I do think that God has played a part in like making sure things happen the way they do, and because there's just some things that can't be explained, but I also was trying to figure out for myself like what is my standard, and I figured out that regardless of who I like or love or want to be with in long-term life kind of picture, my family is still important to me, so there's no one or the other. So for me, at the root of every conversation was, I'm pretty sure I believe this, and I know that y'all believe this, so like, I don't know what to tell you. After we kind of figured out, for me, I was like, well, this is really working. All these things that I'm looking up, they're not really like budging, which is fine. I don't think I expected them to throw away 30 years of work, because the family stuff really comes from the church stuff. Like, they really work hand in hand, and that's, I think, why it's still together and why we are so connected and so strong. But so I wasn't going to try to make them choose, just like I didn't want to have to choose. But I think the conversations were really me trying to be vulnerable about like what I like, why I like it, how do I explain it when I don't know how to explain it, how do I like make sense of the fact that it's kind of in opposition to what I've grown up knowing. And so I think we just had a lot of those conversations out loud, and yeah, we just worked at it together. I don't know your side of it.
My third?
Wait, let's cut for camera.
We cut every